Live.
Hello everybody, Randy live. This is a big moment for me. It's my first time. I'm sitting right in the living room of my own home, and let's talk, man. Let's talk cars. I got a lot of incredible stuff going on in my life. I don't think you want to be me because you don't sleep very much and you're not well organized and you talk too much and you're too skinny, but it is kind of cool to follow because I get to do a lot of really cool stuff. Like just a couple of weeks ago, I was hot lapping a Pagani Huayra BC. You know how many people have done that? I think the guy that works for Pagani and does their track testing, I think that's about it. And so due to generous owner, I was able to take the car out again. And in 2 weeks or so, 3, we're going to Pikes Peak. The Pikes Peak International Hill Climb, crazy 14-mile race up a tiny winding mountain road with a guardrail here, trees there, and then nothing but blue sky. It's the most exciting, thrilling, scary, challenging driving event I've ever been in by far, outside of 285 going around Atlanta at about 2 a.m. on a Saturday night. But other than that, it's unbelievable. And I'm doing it, and guess what? A Tesla Model 3 Performance setup, built as a full race build by Unplugged Performance. They're out of LA and they're a premium Tesla tuner. And they got a wide body kit. We're going to run a big fat set of Michelin slicks. We're going to run their full race suspension. And the car's being built right now. It's already run. It was at Buttonwillow Unplugged Performance Tesla Corsa Day. And there's another one coming up next weekend at Laguna. So I'm going to be there next weekend. Guess where else I'm going to be? I'm going to be in Charlotte next weekend. I get a lot of frequent flyer miles. So I'm going to be going from Lucky Dog, the Lucky Dog Racing League. You race budget endurance racing. And I'm bringing up my own Flying Moose Volvo 740 with my own guys, my buddy Jack Goldie, my buddy Frank Ressamiti, and the guy that always loans me his car on the West Coast, Greg Fuss. He's one of the owners of Lucky Dog Racing. And we're all going to drive the car. It starts on Friday. Then I'm flying to Laguna for Tesla Corsa. The other guys are going to race Saturday morning. I'm coming back Sunday morning on a red eye. I sleep well on planes. And Sunday we're going to race Lucky Dog for 10 hours, finishing under the lights at Charlotte Motor Speedway. We're going to do the high banked oval turns, but we've also got a chicane to keep us from entering the oval corner at 128 miles an hour, and kind of an unfamiliar environment for cars like this. I don't know how my Volvo would hold up to that. Probably would though, because you know why? Because it's a Volvo. And I'm looking forward to it. Owner Kathy McCaw's Fuss runs that series. She's the greatest. She knows how to show everybody a good time. The whole staff puts on amazing endurance races that are a lot of fun. And there's 3 classes at least. Kathy, don't get mad at me if I don't remember how many classes. Because normally what I do is Greg lets me drive his car, and then I just wander around and say hi and talk to people and check out their incredible cars. And occasionally somebody will let me drive one. So that's coming up in 3 weeks. Coming up, oh no, that's next weekend, sorry. Pikes Peak is in about 3 weeks. And last weekend, I was in Denver at High Plains Raceway, which is a really cool track. And High Plains Raceway is a private track recently built by the car clubs in the Denver area, kind of to make up for losing Second Creek. It's an hour or so east of town, and it's a fun track. And I go out there every year for the Race Against Kids Cancer. It is a charity event staged by the Rocky Mountain Vintage Racing Association, RMVR, and the Morgan Adams Foundation. And the leader of the Morgan Adams Foundation is Joan Slaughter. Joan is a good friend of mine, and I admire her so much. She lost her own daughter to childhood cancer when Morgan was only 5 years old. She made it to about 6 bravely. And Joan said, you know what, I'm going to do something to help other people. And she started this foundation in the name of her daughter, Morgan Adams Foundation. And Joan works tirelessly with her staff to raise money to help fight children's cancer. And she always has good stories about the amazing therapies and treatments that are being advanced by your donations to the Morgan Adams Foundation. And this year at the Race Against Kid Cancer, I don't remember the exact number, but I think we raised over $125,000, even in a COVID year. Because we were able to do the event, but you know, everybody's in their own race car. We wore masks. I'm really glad I'm at home and I don't have to wear a mask. It's very annoying. But I do it out of a courtesy and to help other people, and I do it when I fly Delta Airlines all over the world. And it's a good idea because it kind of keeps your germs to you. And that's a good idea. And so, even with COVID, we were able to do the Race Against Kids Cancer. That was a week ago. Then I think it was 2 weeks ago where I got to drive the Pagani. I drove a McLaren Senna. I drove a Porsche GT2 RS. I drove, what else did I drive? There was something else cool going on there. I can't remember it. So many cars. And that was an event called Hypercar Invitation. And Hypercar Invitational started by my friend Alex Baroni, and it's for super exotic cars. There was a hand-built custom formula car there with a Chevy LS V8 in it that is a tribute to a late 60s Formula One car. Incredible attention to detail, beautiful. There were Ferraris everywhere, Lamborghinis, you name it. Some GT3 race cars thrown in there, Mercedes AMG GT3. It was a big, big weekend. And we did a video on this channel, the Randy Pobst YouTube channel. And I thank everybody that's subscribing. It's going up really fast. And without you, we don't exist. So I really appreciate everybody who subscribes. And if you like, and even better, if you hit the notification bell, ding, there's my prop. Where's the ding? We really appreciate it. It keeps us going. Let me see about a question here.
So you can scroll through that whole side there, and there's...
Okay, I'm Randy, huge fan. Thanks for all. Thanks, Lucas. Okay, we love you. Mark Primark, we love you too, man. Thanks for watching. Still watch your GTR clips sometimes, wicked wreck, and you just walk away like it's normal. It's not normal. See, that's my friend, GTR Krish. Where did he go? Well, he was in there again. So he was talking about a video that I did with Pikes Peak Racing when I raced up that hill in 2015 in a Nissan GTR. The car was perfect. Pikes Peak Racing had built a beautiful car. Mark Missigatis was crew chief on that. Austin was chief wrench on the car. Everything was perfect. But I hadn't been getting enough sleep these are my excuses. Hadn't been enough sleep all week, and I was tired, and I don't know. I missed up the course. I thought I was going to the switchback below Glen Cove, and I was going to the sump. And by the time I realized it, it was too late. And I flew off the road at Pikes Peak into the sump. I cleared the water. I cleared a motorcycle that had crashed there before me. And I bent up Rob Brooks's beautiful GTR. We were so going to win that. But you know, the world's not woulda, shoulda, coulda. It's what are the results? And I screwed up. But that did not keep me from wanting to go back. And Rob Brooks, the owner of Pikes Peak Racing in Colorado Springs, Rob got a Mustang, and 2 years later, let me run that hill climb again in a Mustang Trans Am 2 car. And we had a fantastic time. And I've also run an Audi there with 034 Motorsports. I ran a BMW there in 1995 when it was all dirt. And I raced there last year in a Dodge Charger Hellcat wide body. It was fantastic. The only problem was it rained right when I went up for my run. So this year that's going to be a little better, because this year the weather will be better for the cars because the motorcycles are not running. So the cars are going to run in the prime weather in the middle of the day. It usually rains by about 2 o'clock. So it's great to get out there and get running before all that happens. Okay, long answer, sorry. Thanks for the sympathy on the wreck. All my fault. Rob Brooks, thanks so much for living with that and bringing me back. It's amazing. Okay, we figured out how to, oh, that's you. That's my guy, John. Thank you. Have you driven the new Cadillac sedans? I have not. I've heard they're great. I hate the names. CT4, I think, is that a 4-cylinder? CT5, is that a 5-cylinder? No, they're not. I don't even know what they are. I think they're turbo V6. Actually, some Cadillacs come with the exact same engine that I have in my new Camaro that I bought, used, from a great guy in Illinois, 4-cylinder turbo Camaro. I love it. For a Camaro, lightweight, has this amazing handling. I say it's like a cross between a Z28 and an MGB. Kind of lightweight sports car on one end and a little bit muscle car on the other end. And anything 1LE in Camaro handles great. I'd like to go to the Solo Nationals in that, but I don't think I will. But I would love to. It's a long way to Nebraska. Okay, what else we got? I have a GT350 right now. This is RVH. I'm considering a 911 GT3? Yeah. I have yet to drive a GT3, but I know you have. How would you compare them as drivers' cars? The GT350 is a pony car, and maybe the best one there is. You know, I like Camaros too. The GT3 is a sports car, and it's got that kind of tight, racy sports car feel. All the power's on the top end. Of course, with the GT350, you're used to that, because that engine pulls really strong up top. GT3 will be a little lighter, it'll be quicker, more responsive. Both cars are fantastic, but the GT3, due to lightweight and due to Porsche, it's just going to be more responsive, a little bit better handling, and mostly lighter and more agile than your GT350. You will not be disappointed either way. Let's see, hey Randy, have you ever guest hosted on an episode of Top Gear? No, but I was on Roadkill. Ha! Maybe. We'll see. I would like to be on Top Gear. I'd like to be the Top Gear Stig that you know. The Stig that talks, which is what I've been for Motor Trend now for, look out, 11 seasons. Doing Best Driver's Car, I do the hot laps. That's an incredible opportunity. The cars I've driven, flat out at Laguna Seca for a lap time, are unbelievable, and they're usually Ferraris, Porsches, the latest Mustang, the latest Cadillac, the latest Lamborghini, the latest Aston Martin, McLaren. McLaren is always very generous with their cars. They're fantastic. And so I would love to be on Top Gear. Yeah, I don't know if they wouldn't need me or want me, but it would be a thrill. And there's a new Top Gear of America coming up on Motor Trend, by the way. It's going to be out very soon. They're shooting right now. I got a couple pictures from an episode they were doing in Northern California with 3 crazy different cars that I can't talk about. But you're going to want to see this, because I know at least one you've probably never even seen, but you know about it. How's that for a teaser? Okay, next. How's the Moose fixed yet? Dustin, how are you, man? You want to go to Charlotte with us? The Moose is fixed. The Moose is my Volvo race car that we're going to race it with Lucky Dog in Charlotte in a week and a day. And we have transmission issues. Seems the transmission shifter got damaged when the drive shaft fell out. It was terrible. And my friend, crew chief, top mechanic, co-driver, Frank Ressaniti, who has a shop called Philox Motorsports right next door to Road Atlanta, he's took the 2 transmissions we had and made one good one out of them, and we just tested it today, and it works. Great job, Frank. Great job, Jeff Glenn, my neighbor from around the corner. He used to work for Volvo. He has helped me out so many times. Okay. So the Moose is alive. What family truckster, not track car, is your current favorite? Family truckster. Well, you know what? That's Jack Golding. And by the way, he's my co-driver too. But Jack, if a car is not going to drive on track, it's hard for me to even think in those ways. But guess what? I got to admit to you, I do not like SUVs. I don't like anything that's jacked up unless I'm driving off-road. Maybe I'm tall, or maybe it's this long neck. I got enough of a good view. I actually like wagons, and there are very, very few wagons. But one of my favorite wagons, and Jack, this will qualify as a family truckster, is a Volvo V90. Gorgeous car, big, roomy, handles great. And if that's a little too big for you, then a V60, all-wheel drive Polestar, high performance, amazing Volvo car. I like my Volvos too. I've got 3 of them. And so, how about our Benzema C7 Z6s are fun cars. Yeah, and they're a challenge because they're twitchy. But guess what? Mike Levis at TPC Racing and DSC Sport, he told me that if you get the rear alignment right on your C7, that's the key. And the alignment is not camber and toe. Everybody knows about that. It's rear caster. Rear caster. Now, normally we only think of caster on the front suspension because it adds negative camber when the wheels are turned and it gives the car better directional stability. Well, on your C7 Corvette, if your caster is not right, you can get bump steer, roll toe out, and a lot of the C7s I've driven have it. And the more power they have, Z06, C7, the more that's exaggerated and they can be very twitchy. So get your C7, Z06, aligned right, and you'll be good. In fact, my partner, Frank Resinitti with Vioxx Motorsports, has a C7 Grand Sport, which is my favorite version, because I think the chassis handles that 500 horsepower level better than it does 650 or 750. And it handled great. I did some hot laps with that car recently at VIR. It was a sweetheart. Okay, lavalier. I know, we're working on it. Better mics. Next time. This is my first live show. Come on. You like the reverb here in my living room. Good reverb.
We can move the camera closer.
Have you ever driven the new C8 Corvette, Steve? Yes, Steve, I have. I've driven it a lot. I drove it at VIR in a test with the Corvette engineers. It was a GM press day. And I love the C8 Corvette. It is a huge step forward for Corvette nameplate, more sophisticated, higher performance than ever before. But I told the Corvette engineers at the time, when you turn off the stability control, it has some trailing throttle oversteer, which means if you enter a corner off the gas, which I do a lot because I'm a trailbreaker, and we can talk about that more someday when we're talking about handling and driving. But you enter the corner off gas and the tail comes out. And part of this is the result of being mid-engine. One of the great things that Chevrolet has done with the C8, with the mid-engine, there's more weight over the rear wheels, and the traction is fantastic. The C8 puts power down so well that it gets 0 to 60 times that are much faster than its power to weight ratio would indicate. When you look at that number, you think, nah, it can't be that fast. I don't remember the number. It might be under 5 seconds. Might be under 4 seconds, actually. It's really low, okay? Forgive me on that, but C8 puts power down great, has trailing throttle oversteering corner entry, and I think the GM can fix it by hooking up the E-diff when you're off throttle. That's how Porsche has always done it with the 911s. With a limited slip differential that hooks up a lot off throttle. Try it, you'll like it. I'd love to tune an E-diff. Okay, what's Jason Kamissa like in real life? Even better. He's crazy, he's funny. Jason is, he's a perfectionist. And he's really picky on the shows about getting them right, and it can be a pain in the butt. But never to me. Jason has always been so good to me. We're good friends, and his shows are so good. He just started with Haggerty, the car insurance people for enthusiast cars and motorcycles. Jason is now doing videos for them, and he's so funny, and he's so creative, and he's so knowledgeable. And what else he brings is he's an engineer, and he doesn't look or sound like one. Okay, maybe he doesn't, I don't know, but he looks like Adam Sandler, right? But he has a lot of automotive knowledge on technical things like roll centers and spring rates. So he's amazing. Jason Kamissa is one of my favorite people. Right after Johnny Lieberman. Okay. Ever met Dale Earnhardt Jr.? No, but I met Dale Earnhardt. And I'll shorten the story. I was racing at the Rolex 24 the year that Dale and Dale Jr. ran a Corvette. That's 2001. Yes, it was 2 weeks before Dale Sr. passed away in the accident at Daytona that made us all start wearing Hans devices, which is a seatbelt for your helmet. So out of the sadness of his death came more safety for all of us that race cars. Anyway, I'm racing, and let me think how this works. A yellow Corvette, number 3, passes me, and it goes full course yellow. Under a full course yellow, nobody's allowed to pass anybody. And right after that, a prototype passes me and the Corvette. And I'm like, whoa, you can't do that, no passing under yellow. And I think the guy was going to put us a lap down. It was terrible. Could not allow that. I'm on the radio to my crew, blah, 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 you know, this guy passed us all. And I know whoever was in the Corvette was probably doing the same thing. And I was running a Porsche that year with Peterson Motorsport. And we won, by the way. But anyway, my crew chief comes on and it said, don't worry, I'm talking to the officials, we'll sort it out. I see the yellow Corvette pull out and pass the prototype. The pace car is not out yet. And he passes the prototype, and I said, I know I'm ahead of that guy. I'm going with him. And I drove with the Corvette, and we ran back around to the end of the line. We got our lap back. It was a big deal. Got our lap back. We're back in line. I'm sitting behind this Corvette under yellow, and I'm thinking, wait a minute, Corvette, number 3, I wonder. And so I drove up next to the vet. This is under yellow. I pulled up next to him. We're going 40 miles an hour, and I look over. Sure enough, mustache, gargoyle sunglasses, open face helmet. It's Dale. And I look over at him, and he looks over, and he goes like this. He goes, "Whoa!" Like this kind of racing is crazy. I said, "Yep." And I backed in behind him, and that, folks, was my Dale Earnhardt moment. It was cool. By the way, no, I have not met Dale Earnhardt Jr. Seems like a great guy. Okay, what's your favorite year trim of Camaro? Ooh, you know, I think my favorite Camaro is the SS with a V8. I got the 4-cylinder because I wanted less cost, less traffic tickets, and less fuel expense. And the SS is beautifully balanced. And I would probably take a brand new one because they get better every year. But any one of the Alpha platform forward, from the previous generation, the 2015 Z28, fantastic, Motor Trend's best, Motor Trend's driver's car of the year, best what do we call it? BDC, best driver's car. Motor Trend's best driver's car 2015. Anyway, I like the Alpha platform, the new Camaros, and I would take an SS as new as I could get it, 2020. What are your racing plans for the future? You know what? I never know. I take it one at a time.
So there's a lot of questions about the T50.
Oh, yeah. But I can tell you I'm doing, well, you know I'm doing Charlotte Lucky Dog next week. After that, budget endurance. If I stumble into a pro ride, I'd do it in a minute. In fact, I'm going to run like a Formula 3 or a Formula 4 car and race all the 16-year-olds to see if I can beat their little shiny behinds, even though we probably get crashed because they don't know how to pass yet. But actually, some of them are fantastic. They got 12 years of experience and they're only 17 years old. Anyway, a lot of questions about the T.50, the new car from Gordon Murray. Well, my all-time favorite car is the McLaren Formula One that Gordon Murray designed in 1995-ish. And so I find this new T.50 fascinating because it is obviously an evolution of his original design. It still has the middle seat. It still has very much a super lightweight focus. It's got a normally aspirated engine that revs to incredibly high RPM and claims to still have lower end torque. And I know this is possible because all you need is just to mimic a modern motorcycle engine. Motorcycles have the most incredible engines that there are. These things make screaming top end power, and they can make strong low end power, and then they idle it at 1,000 RPM like they're a puppy dog. It's incredible. And so I only hope, my greatest hope is that when that car is available to the public, or even before, I might get a chance to drive one. I would compare it to a Senna in terms of its performance, but everything about it is even better than a Senna. And the Senna, I feel, leaves a lot of room to be better handling than it is. Although the last one I drove was by far the best handling one I drove. And the owner claims they didn't do a whole lot to it, but whatever they're doing, it worked. Let's see. My favorite classic AMC. I love that question. American Motors Corporation. I had a Hornet, right? You might have seen that on my Instagram a couple years ago. But my favorite has got to be the Gremlin X, because it was so cool with big flares, and you could see a big fat sway bar hanging down underneath it. And it's probably a terrible car, but in the 70s, it just had this flavor of muscle car that was kind of extreme. It was like a disco muscle car. Gremlin X, AMC. Okay, what else have we got? Miata money. On track, if you crash your own car, it's one thing. How do you go over the fear of crashing someone else's car on track? Fear? What fear? I have no fear. You know what I do? I drive 1% slower. And a lot of times, driving 1% slower, guess what? I go even faster. I also listen to what the car tells me. When I do hot laps, I usually want to get the best out of a brand new set of tires. So the out lap is when I figure everything out. And I read the car for messages, especially if it has snap oversteer. That's part of the reason why I don't like snap turn and oversteer. And so I feel these characteristics, and it gives me an idea of what I'm going to have when I start the hot lap. And if the car gives me a reason to not trust it, then I back off a little bit and I don't push it quite as hard. But I'm always pushing for the best lap I can, because I don't want some Joe off the street to be out there talking on YouTube about how he's got 3 seconds on me at Chuck Walla in a Mustang Shelby GT500. You know, it's like you're a gunfighter. You always got to be quick on the draw, because somebody else is going to walk up and try and beat you. And we're still quick on the draw. Let's see here. David Haskell. Haskell. I know David Haskell. He was with Speed Source. Anyway, David, what's the most refined super hypercar being produced today that you have driven? The most refined hyper supercar. It's not the Senna. It's not the P1. Those are wild. It's not the ZR1. Wild. I've spent a lot of time in a Pagani lately, and it was incredibly refined for an automobile that's built in such low production. If you could call it a hypercar, the Porsche GT2 RS is typically Porsche perfect. It does everything so well, and it's so easy to drive fast. They have a new guy over there named Lars Kern, and he's amazing. And he has a similar philosophy to me about balance. So the car that handles properly pretty much drives itself. And that's how the GT2 RS and the GT3 RS .2 feel to me. The GT3 RS .1, way too twitchy at turning. It could maybe be fixed with some simple adjustments, but I never had that opportunity. I just drove the factory cars, and they were too twitchy for my taste. I actually like the regular GT3 better. Even though the GT3 RS .1, every single thing on the car had been improved. It was lighter, it had more power, it had bigger wheels, it had a wider body, it had better transmission, better ratios, better brakes, everything. But the handling balance. And I have a long time theory about that, because a lot of race drivers in the last 30 years and before even have grown up karting. They race karts that have a solid rear axle. And with a solid rear axle, if you drive with slow hands and trail brake a little bit, that car just goes straight. And you'll never get around the corner. They have to snap sideways and turn in to be quick. And you drive them on the back tire. And you can get away with that because they're light. They're not like a car that's compared to a cart, which weighs 200 pounds, that weighs 3,000 pounds. Think how much harder it is on the tires. You can't slide a car around much on pavement if you want to win. And that, my friends, is what's so good about dirt, because sliding is faster on dirt. I've only recently got to experience that. And I realized that I've been in the wrong career all these years. I should have been a dirt driver. All right, what do we got? Second Sam. What do you think of the Toyota GR Super Shot? I don't know what that is unless it's related to the new Supra. But the Supra, a little bit funny looking car. The looks grow on me when I'm around one. They're based on a BMW. Quick turbo 6-cylinder engine. Unlike Toyota, BMW/BMW, each of the Supras that I've driven, and it's only about 3 of them, has been quite different. And one was pretty good, the first one I drove at Corvette Museum Track up in Kentucky. The other one we had for best driver's car was dicey. It felt like it was so dicey, we sent it back to the dealership, but they didn't know what they were looking at. It was a brand new car they'd never seen before. And so that's why I didn't finish very well on our handling test. So great potential, interesting, different car, and guess what? I get to race one at Thunder Hill 25-hour, unless they kick me off the team for talking like I just did. We'll see. Hope not. Love you, TAPG Racing. Siddiqui. Hey Randy, just wanted to get your impressions of a C6 Grand Sport manual. Have you ever driven one? I'm going to start tracking mine coming off a V6 1LE I got based on your review. Wow, I hope you like that V6 1LE, and now you want more power, right? Yeah. The V6 engine makes 300 horsepower at high revs, but it's kind of dead at low revs. And a C6 chassis I actually like better than the C7. And, oh gosh, I can't remember if I ran a Grand Sport. I remember I had the lap record at Laguna Seca years ago in a C6 Carbon Edition, which might be a similar car. The Z06, it had the old Z06 motor, which was, I don't remember the letters, but what a rockin' 500 horsepower big V8 that was. And I think you're going to love the car. Make sure you get a good alignment on it. Corvettes are very sensitive to alignment, especially in the back. And love that manual transmission because you're driving. And we got, you're the first person in 40 years of living that ever announced my last name correctly. Oh no. Lucky guess. Lucky guess, David. Okay. Oh, second Sam, Toyota's hypercar. Thank you. I don't know about the car. I need to go check up on my Motor Trend to get the latest information. Will you teach my 76-year-old dad to drive his Camaro? Yeah, Dad, be smooth and look ahead. Oh, wow, the Toyota looks like a prototype race car. I hope I get to test drive it. Thanks for raising my awareness. Okay. The one I need to ride at the track, luckily you're under warranty. That's a good thing. I'm glad. And hopefully Chevy took care of you on that. And it's pretty cool, though, that 1LEs can be tracked with a warranty. I haven't had my Camaro out yet, my 4-cylinder. It's a better street car. The engine has all this low-end torque. You wouldn't expect that from a 2-liter turbo. But at 2,400 RPM, that thing is honking. And then if you rev it out from 5 to 6, it's kind of lazy. Yeah, I'd like to hop it up, maybe go to a bigger turbo and tune it, but I don't want to lose the warranty. I bought it for a street car. I have 5 race cars, and that's another story. And only one of them runs, the Happy or the Flying Moose. Happy Flying Moose when it runs. All right, I've always wanted to know, Rodolfo, wanted to know what's your opinion on C5 Corvettes and its handling by behavior. You know, that's interesting. I raced one in '99 when they were brand new with Reed Knight from Vero Beach. My friend Bill Boyer hooked me up, and I drove with Amos Johnson and Andy Pilgrim. We had a great season, but when we were always about to win a race, something crazy would happen and we wouldn't. One time the battery boiled over acid and it ate through a spark plug wire, and we went to 7 cylinders, and Joe Vardy caught me in a Viper. We had it won, people, down at Homestead. Another time, leading, staying ahead of, who was that guy, good driver from Canada in a 911 Turbo. And I'm passing my good friend Joe, oh gosh, I forget Joe's last name. This was 30 years ago, 25. Anyway, here's the problem with the C5 Corvettes. Good basic handling, especially the Z6 model, because John Heinrich was involved in that, and he's really good at car setup. Those cars handle really well. They have dumb ABS. ABS, anti-lock brake systems, have been getting better and better. And back in the 90s, they weren't as sophisticated, and a lot of times they were not happy on a racetrack. So if you had a wheel that was lightly loaded or in the air, the brakes would go into ice mode, which is a hard pedal and almost no brakes. And I had 4 or 5 big crashes. Different brands of cars doing that to me. And the Corvette did that, and I dove inside Joe in a Firebird. I had no intention of trying to pass him, but the brakes didn't work. Where have you heard that story before? Anyway, banged off the side of him, banged off the tire wall, lost the position. I think we still came in with a decent finish, but we didn't win. And Joe is saying, Joe Danaher, yeah, great guy. Joe has been mad at me ever since, because sometimes the car just makes you look like a fool. Sorry, Joe. That's what I don't like about C5s. By the way, I drove one just last weekend at the Oregon Raceway Park. That's a great track, by the way. I drove one belonging to a team called the Screaming Chickens. Extremely well-prepared car, and it was great to drive. And it was in a lucky dog race, and boy, we blew by everything on the track. And they had done this brilliant recalibration of the brake pedal that made it less sensitive, and likewise made the ABS less likely to go into ice mode. Great work, Screaming Chickens, and thanks for letting me try your car out in Lucky Dog Racing. Let's see, what do we got? Have I ever driven a Lexus LFA? Yes, I have. Lexus LFA makes beautiful music from a high-rev V10. It was assy. There's a whole category. You know how this country is split into right and left? Well, drivers are split into understeer and oversteer, or really oversteer and everything else. And I am not an oversteer guy. I love oversteer when I want to do it on purpose. I don't like oversteer when my car makes me do it whether I want to or not. And a lot of people love that. A lot of people consider that good handling. They consider it lively. They grew up racing go-karts, and that's all they know. Kick it sideways and dance it to the corner. People, if you're doing this with your steering wheel, your car's not handling well. You're constantly correcting it. When a car handles well, your steering wheel looks like this. Smooth. And here's another clue. When everything's going well, slow hands is fast. When everything gets in trouble, when you kick sideways, fast hands to catch it. Slow hands for speed, fast hands for catching slides. Driving hints. Thank you, Skip Barber Racing School, and my hero, Terry Earwood. I hope you're watching. Probably not, he's too smart for that. Okay, Porsche PDK or manual? Oh yeah, I can't stand that tall gearing in the Cayman, you're right. The PDK is perfect. It does everything that I would do, and it makes driving feel almost like a video game to me, because it's so much less involving. I still love driving a PDK car, and for hot laps it's amazing, because I don't have to, I usually do it on my first lap or my second lap. And in a manual, it can be hard to decide what gear to use or get the right downshift in a tricky corner. And a PDK or another good automatic like Chevrolet's 10-speed automatic is fantastic. It does everything for you and makes it really easy, but it's kind of boring compared to driving a manual transmission. Manuals are much more involving, and they're old school, they're dinosaurs, but I love them. Okay, and the Cayman, I don't know, it's a hard decision because the manual gear is so tall. I would like to try a Cayman with a lower final drive. That would be a cool car, it would be a rocket. Do it, people. It's your money, not mine. It would be expensive, but do it. Take it to TPC Racing and tell Michael Levis Randy sent you. Okay, what's your favorite race series? And what would you love to drive in it? Obviously, it's Lucky Dog. And I'd love to drive my Moose in it, and that's why we're going next weekend. But let's get more realistic, like Pro Series. Oh, gosh. You know what interests me is I drove in World Challenge for many years, and there's the current version of it is called SRO World Challenge, or World Challenge America. Help me, people. And I would like to drive one of the KTMs. They have these little lightweight KTMs that run against the big cars in GT4. That looks really interesting to me. And I'd like to do the Sprint X and team up with a buddy to do those short driver change endurance races, short endurance. That would be a lot of fun. Lucky Dog, yes, Marshall, I agree. Lucky Dog is fantastic. It's good fun. Kathy Faust, the leader, she makes everything work great. She's so much fun. Favorite new or pre-owned sports car under 60K? Okay, under 60K, new or pre-owned sports car. Well, I almost bought a 911. You can get a pretty nice 911 for under 60K. Used. A Cayman with an engine swap, a 3.6 liter Cayman. Well, they make them that way now, but one of the older ones, pretty cool. Yeah, we'll leave it there for now. I bought a Camaro. Camaro 1LE anything is a great value used, especially. And the V8 is so well balanced and powerful. Like I said, that's why I avoided it. I figured I'd lose my license and be in the hospital or in jail pretty soon. And, okay. Hey, the four-cylinder's got 275 horsepower, for goodness sake. James, favorite E30, E36, or E46 M3? James, the best handling car I ever drove was an E30 M3 on all-season tires with a Turner Motorsport suspension at VIR many years ago. I'm a huge fan of the E30 M3. That's my favorite M3, and I love all three of them. In fact, I have an E36 M3 that is going to be on track soon, but it was getting rebuilt and prepared by Lanier Tech here in Gainesville, Georgia, and the COVID stopped all the work on my car. Don't we hate the virus? We hate the virus. Favorite config, 4-hinge or top-hinge pedal? Top-hinge pedal for me. I mean, I know Porsches and VW Bugs have them on the floor, and that's cool, and it's actually kind of helps for heel and toe. But I like them top-hinge. Thank you very much. What was the most surprising car you ever drove, good or bad? Well, you know, we remember the ones we drove best, right? And for me, the biggest surprise was the Pagani Huayra BC, because it comes from a tiny manufacturer in Italy. It is an art car that is exquisitely finished with detail and designs and these machined pieces everywhere, carbon fiber, where the grain of the carbon fiber lines up perfectly across the various body panels. I could go on and on. And we figured, okay, that cheat car looks great. It's going to be diabolical. No! Handles fantastic on track. Beautiful brake feel. I mean, really impressive work, Horacio Pagani and team, to build a beautiful, beautiful car that also drives and handles better than almost any other supercar or high-performance car I've ever driven. It's that good. And that was surprisingly good. What was surprisingly bad? You know I hate to be negative. What was surprisingly bad? I'm going to pick on the C7 Corvette. Tricky car to drive fast. Diabolical. And every one I drive is differently. And I think you can fix it with the rear alignment. Or even better, a set of DSC sport shocks with tractive. That'll straighten it right out. But that car's always been fun. You got to really handle that thing. Oh, that's another car that struck me with how good it was the Viper ACR-X, the last Viper where they fixed all the handling problems and unfortunately canceled the car. That car was amazingly good because every other Viper is a handful. It takes both hands, a little sweat, and everything you got to drive those cars. They're not the best driver's car, but the regular Vipers are cars that demand the best from the driver. The Z6 C7 Corvette's the same way. Okay. Have I ever owned a Kawasaki H2? Heck yeah, I did. It was pretty rusty. I got it from my friend who was an Alex Joe crewman down in Central Florida. It had been left outside for years. That gives you an idea of the condition it was in. And I had dreams maybe restoring it, but I sold it to Australia, where it's probably now being perfectly restored by some amazing guy, Aussie down there. But I do have a Kawasaki 500 triple Mach 1, a 1971, that I bought from my buddy Jack. And some of these vintage cars, what's fun about them is how bad they are. And motorcycles too, is that you really have to be on your toes and be the best you can be to control them and handle them. And that's the way the Kawasaki Mach 1 500 triple was. And that's the way the 750 was. And that's the way a lot of the vintage cars I drove at the Race Against Kids Cancer last weekend, they were that way. Have you ever driven the Chevrolet SS, and what are your thoughts on it? I have not driven the Chevy. Oh, yes I have. I was thinking of that pickup truck, the SSR. The Chevy SS, based on the Australian Holden chassis, fantastic. That car is a tragedy because the Chevy SS was powerful, great handling, four-door sedan, M5 performance, but they made it look like a Malibu and they gave it an anonymous name that didn't identify it. Every Chevy ever made had an SS version. You don't call a car an SS. It's an Impala SS. It's a Nova SS. It's a Camaro SS. What were you thinking? Because the Chevy SS is a great car. You can even get it with a manual. And I loved it. We at Motor Trend were very impressed with that car. Good value, too. Let's see here. Excuse my drinking. COVID pink for my RS Forest. Hey, part of that 6 trillion. I know, it helps. I don't know, we'll see how that works out long term, but I am not going down that road. What do you think about the S2000? I love the S2000. How could you not? It's a little heavier than I wish it was, but it's a beautiful car. Great handling, either the Gen 1 or the Gen 2. I forget what you S2000 guys call those. One of them revs higher and the other one has a little bit more mid-range torque. But they're a fantastic track experience car. I drove 2 of them up at Pit Race last year at an event called Carfest. And both cars were very similarly prepared. And both cars had really good drivers. And we would go out together, first in one car, then in the other one, and chase each other. And I don't know, it was one of the better track experiences of my whole life. I just loved it. Opinions on the 370Z, handling or otherwise. 370Z, I think, is underrated. I think it's a fantastic little sports car. It's a good choice for an older, less expensive car to go tracking with. They run great. The 350 was smoother. The 370Zs, they must have added stroke because the engine got a little bit more harsh, reminding me a little bit of a school bus. And no offense, whereas the 350 was smoother. But I respect the cars a lot, and the Nismo 370 was a cool car because it was very balanced, and it had this little bit of oversteer in its balance. This is dead stock, mind you, stock tires and everything. Where the tail would start coming around, but it would stop. It would just move, and then it was okay. And it was one of the cars that sent me some signals like, whoop, this thing's twitchy. And I drove a little bit more, and I realized, no, it isn't. It comes out, and then it stays there. This car is really cool. Great handling balance. Another car that I experienced that with was the Porsche Boxster Spider. My friend Rob Brooks with Pikes Peak Racing brought one out to a track day at High Plains Raceway in Denver. I live in Atlanta, but I spent a lot of time in Denver and a lot of time at Willow Springs too, by the way. He brought one out, I drove it, and I thought, this thing is too loose, twitchy. Same guy that set up the RS, GT3 RS.1 probably set this thing up. And I parked it, and it sat there where we drove some other cool cars Rob has, like a regular GT3 and Mustang GT350. And then I thought, okay, let's try that Spider again anyway. And I drove it, and I learned that it was like the 370Z, no offense, Porsche, Nismo, in that when you turn for the corner, the tail would move out, but then it'd stop. And it would just go through the corner with that little bit of yaw in it. And I started to learn that I could trust it. And I started to decide that this may be one of the best handling Porsches I've ever driven. And I love the car. Plus, in a Boxster Spider, they have a minimal top, like a bikini top almost. It's kind of funny. And it's really cool that they did this. And you put this little bikini top down, and there's a big tonneau that folds down, and all of a sudden the Porsche Boxster Spider looks kind of like a 918. It's really cool. They look so good with the top down. Okay, aloha from Hawaii, Wes and Wanda. Thank you. Love it. I was just out there last December. You should check out M539. He just imported a manual E60 that he got from North Carolina into Germany. Okay, check out M539. Guys are arguing on my side here. Oh, have I driven any high-dollar pro touring builds out there? Yes. I drove, I think it was a Dodge Charger. I've got friends at Optima, and they do the Optima Ultimate Street Car Invitational, which is a great place to run your pro touring car. And there I met, oh gosh, what's my buddy's name who built the ultimate pro touring Camaro, which really was kind of a tube frame Camaro, but it was legal by the rules with a twin turbo V8. And my friend Tommy Boyle is going to drive it at Pikes Peak this year. I'm so jealous. Mike. John, what's Mike's last name? Remember we interviewed him at SEMA. Long hair, good driver.
Yeah,
you guys know him. I'm going to drive that car someday. Mike promised that he'd let me have a shot at that Camaro. And we'll see that at Pikes Peak. I'll see if he can beat me in the Tesla. But I drove a Charger that was a very nice, brand new Pro Touring build. I love Pro Touring cars because I like 60s muscle cars. I'm really a sports car guy, but how can you not love Camaros, Mustangs, Torinos, Talladegas, you name it, Charger. Oh my gosh, the 67 Charger. I actually owned a 1970 Super Bee, which is not a Super Bird, it's a Super Bee. And it was almost too long to get in my garage, but it was beautiful. I love that car. I got rid of it though because it hesitated, and I was never able to fix the hesitation. It only ran right when the temperature was over 90 degrees. So it was undoubtedly lean. And I couldn't find jets. It had the stock carburetor. What do you call those Chrysler carburetors? Quadrajet's a Chevy, isn't it? Rochester? I can't remember. Anyway, it was too lean. Next question.
Mike Dussault is the guy's name.
Toyota, Mike Dussault, right? Mike Dussault. Mike, let me drive your Camaro if it's still running after Tommy gets done with it at Pikes Peak. Have I driven a Toyota MR2 Mark I? Have I driven a Toyota MR2 Mark I? I was raised with a Toyota MR2 Mark I. What a sweetheart car. And that car was so impressive because when the first MR2 came out, it was right from that moment. Whereas the Fiero came out at almost the same time, and the Fiero was not right. They weren't done. GM in the 80s, they got in a hurry. The guys counting the beans were sort of in charge, and they didn't get cars done, and they launched them anyway. The Fiero is a good example. It wasn't ready. I know this because I was 25 years old at the time, and the MR2 was so good. When it was brand new, it was perfect. And we raced it, and it worked beautifully. And I raced a 1988, the ultimate Mark I MR2, a 1988 supercharged MR2, and it was a fantastic car to run. And it only got messed up when I tried to modify it too much. It was my fault. It was a great little car, strong. And the gearbox, for instance, the gearbox had its own oil pump to circulate oil. How about that? Because it was a supercharged version. Nowadays, that's more common, but not back then. The next car I remember hearing about that on was a 2001 Porsche 911 GT2. It had an oil pump for the gearbox. That is also one of my favorite cars. Okay, thoughts on the BRZ Toyota 86. I raced one the last 2 years at Thunder Hill. Fantastic chassis. A good example of how cars should handle, frankly. A car that's beautiful the way it is, but cries for more power. Like a 3-liter normally aspirated V6. Wow, what a sweet package that would be. Just put a Camry V6 motor in there. Have you seen those Toyota MR2s where they do the Camry V6 swap? You need to do that. You get a second gen MR2 and put a Camry V6 in it, and you have a Ferrari. I'm not kidding you. Okay, a Ferrari Dino. They're a good-looking car. You can't believe how good a Camry V6 runs. And you put it in an MR2, now it weighs 2,800 pounds, and the little sucker flies. Put the big one in too. If you're going to do the swap, get the biggest engine you can. I think they have a 3-liter, a 3.3, and a 3.5. Put the big one in. Oh, what did I think? Oh, you guys are talking here on my site. That's cool. What would I ask James May if I met him? Well, I think I would talk to James May about cars that have a comfortable ride. Because I saw him do a Top Gear where he was complaining about the ride of modern cars, and he was right. They're firm, and that pleases me. They handle well, but shouldn't we be good enough to make a car really plush, but that still have a feeling of control? I'm talking plush. That's what James May was talking about, and I know what he means. You just go back into the 70s or 60s in an American car. Plush ride, no control. Let's put them both together. Mike Levis, I challenge you with your adaptive DSC Sport controller. I'll bet you can make a car do both, do it all. You'd have to have soft springs and then control the body with the shocks. Okay. Randy from Danny 200 mile an hour. Must be amazing to set so many track records and then break them. I feel lucky. I love it. Okay. Man, it's been fun. We're going to do 5 more questions and wrap it up. I really miss talking with you guys, but I do appreciate you throwing in questions. And my apologies to the ones that we didn't pick up. And my thank you to everybody that did. And even the guys that are talking to each other on my page. I love it. Let's all come together. This is great. Okay. Matt's Norway. Matt's, are you from Norway? Because that would be unbelievable because it's like 3 a.m. there right now. Volvo B23. Have I driven a B23 with a turbo? You mean a B230 FT? There's one in the Flying Moose. And I drove it today. And I love it. It needs a bigger turbo. Great bottom end. No throttle lag. but no top end. We need a bigger turbo. We're gonna work on that on the flying loose. That's a B230 FT Max. Love it. Oh, they push in the stupid power in Sweden. I've seen them. I've seen them blow the rear end right out of a Volvo on a drag strip. Well, the red block has such a strong block that you can pump huge boost to it for a drag car. Oh, let's see. Jack Bond. Hey Randy, do you like to modify your own cars or do you prefer to keep them factory? Modify, baby. It's always fun to try some new part. We're about to do a video for something called Pedal Commander, and I'm hoping Pedal Commander can help make the throttle work more the way I want to. I want it to come on fast to reduce turbo lag, and I want it to shut off when I lift, so I don't have throttle hang. You know how you rev your car up and it goes, vroom! Well, that's harder than synchros, and you don't get a quick 1-2 shift. So we're going to test the Pedal Commander tomorrow, and don't miss the video. We'll get it out, what, within a week, guys? Yeah. 2 weeks, maybe? We're going to test that Pedal Commander, because I got high hopes. Question number 3. What do I think of Bathurst in Australia? I think they're running down through those narrow walls on those switchbacks. It's bloody hairy. You Aussies are crazy. And I would love to do that race. Bathurst is a fantastic racetrack in Australia where they have I think it's a 1,000 kilometer race that is epic. And it's one of the most challenging in the world. And they climb up Mount Panorama, isn't it, guys? And up on the mountain, it's a narrow, winding mountain road with switchbacks and walls right there. But I've done a lot of street courses, and I'd be fine with that. That's an amazing race, Australia. Thanks for dropping in from down under. Oh, let's see. Emissions. Still have Smurf. Guys are talking to each other. Josh Chung. Randy, do you think electric cars eventually overtake internal combustion cars among amateur auto enthusiasts? Now wait a minute. In the world? I think they will overtake them. Among auto enthusiasts? No. I don't think they will overtake them because, well, at least those of us who know and love them are never going to give them up. And besides, what are we going to do? Just park them? Although we're going to need to find gas somewhere. It's not going to be easy to generate enough electricity if everybody wants to drive electric cars. That's one of the issues that has to be worked out yet. We have such a strong infrastructure still for gasoline. And is this question number 5, team?
It is.
Let's see. RJ. Panorama it is. Yay. Drive-by-wire. What's the secret of keeping yourself down to earth? Never stop learning. You gotta love yourself, but not think that you're better than everybody else. Because we've all got our problems, and we've all got our good sides, and we've all got our bad sides. I just hide mine on the back side of the camera. And on that note, thanks everybody for joining me tonight. It has been a pleasure. Please subscribe to the Randy Pobst YouTube channel, and those of you that already have, thank you very much. Like it, and hit the notification bell. You know the routine, but to us, it's a big deal because the channel's rolling, and we're going up, and it's just car fun, really. I don't think we're ever going to get all that sophisticated. We'll see. Thanks for joining me. It's a pleasure, and we'll see you next time. Woo! Be smooth and look ahead.